The Retroid Pocket 3 is pretty much identical to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus in terms of hardware, other than the option of 3GB of RAM over the 2GB of RAM that the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus comes with. Now it's important to note that I made sure that the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus and the Retroid Pocket 3 were running the same version of the emulator with the exact same settings as well. The only difference is that the games on the Retroid Pocket 3 were running off an SD card and the games on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus were running off the native storage. Starting with Game Boy and Mario Kart, and the Retroid Pocket 3 didn't start too well with this one. It took a few seconds longer to start the game, as you can see here, and at the point where I was just about to start the game, for some reason the Retroid Pocket 3 emulation seemed to freeze and the screen went blank. So I gave it another shot, and this time the Retroid Pocket 3 successfully loaded up. But as you can see, there is pretty much zero difference when running Mario Kart on the GameCube on the Retroid Pocket 3 over the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, meaning that the little extra gigabyte of RAM isn't really having an impact here. One thing I think you will be impressed with though is my ability to play 2 races at once. Next up, we're looking at what was one of my favourite games to play in the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, and that is Simpsons Hit and Run. And once again, there is pretty much no difference between the two consoles. The Retroid Pocket 3 and the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus both handle this pretty much identically. One big difference though is that Simpsons Hit and Run is a lot harder to play 2 at once. As you can see, there was a lot of crashing in this one. Next up, we're looking at NBA Street Volume 2 on the GameCube, and as with the previous 2 games, there's no real perceivable difference between the 2 consoles. Both the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus and the Retroid Pocket 3 seem to deal with and struggle with the same things as each other, which to be honest is kind of expected considering they are essentially the same hardware. Moving on to the PlayStation 2, and I will say you'll notice the screen on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus is a bit dimmer. That's just my mistake. I made the screen a bit dimmer and forgot to fix it for the recording. But playing NFL Blitz on the PlayStation 2, once again as with the GameCube, you can see there is pretty much no difference whatsoever. The only difference I really did see when it came to any of these tests was that sometimes the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus maybe loaded a game a little bit quicker during the loading screen. However, I think it would be unfair to say that the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus was dealing with it better, as I think this was more down to the fact that I was running the Retroid Pocket 3 games off an SD card. Next up is Kinetica on the PlayStation 2, and once again, as with all of these tests, there is no noticeable or really perceivable difference between the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus emulation and the Retroid Pocket 3 emulation. For all of the tests that I've performed, I've not been able to see any scenario where the extra gigabyte has made any benefit to the emulation, and any differences that I ever have observed have never been solely in the favour of the Retroid Pocket 3. Sometimes the Retroid Pocket 3 handled a certain instance a little bit better, and sometimes the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus handled a certain instance a little bit better. So I think it's safe to say that if you're looking for differences between the Retroid Pocket 3 and the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus in terms of retro game emulation, you're not going to find any. But, and this is a huge but, this is not all that the Retroid Pocket 3 has to offer. And in all honesty, retro emulation is just a small percentage of the gaming capabilities of the Retroid Pocket 3. There is actually a lot more to discuss about the Retroid Pocket 3, and there are certainly some huge benefits that the Retroid Pocket 3 has over the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, which why in my mind makes the Retroid Pocket 3 a far superior console to the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. If you want to find out what those details are, then look out for the review that will be coming out in the next couple of days.